Are we there? Are we live? Hello, hello. Welcome to Disparate Worlds, where an irresistible force meets an immovable object. I'm Mox, and this is Sakari, and we are live reviewing a video.
That we're doing, yes. We have not prepared anything. There's no notes. Mox did that entirely from memory, which I'm pretty impressed. That is some talent. I half expected.
That's probably like 200 times now.
Yeah, no kidding, if it's not in memory, but honestly, I'll be honest. The line I do at the end, I still don't remember what those words are. You'll look at me every time. I'll be looking at it. I'll be reading them every time because I'm like, irresistible in your passion, right? Is that the right thing? So I read it. I just don't take a chance every single time.
Don't take a chance. Well, welcome everybody who is here to our first ever live. We have a treat for you tonight. Probably a topic that a lot of people are loath to touch.
Yes. You know what? I get the feeling the Ashes community is more than happy to have a beatdown, a good old Friday evening beatdown, compared to the Pantheon. You all are so well behaved in the Pantheon community.
So what you're saying is that the Pantheon community needed me.
Yes, they needed
An enforcer?
Philadelphia Northeastern
Fight
Club member, right? Yes, a Mox boxer. That's what
there you go. Excellent. So, so it's our first video review. We mentioned this in a previous video that the way we're going to approach this, we definitely don't want to attack the content creator, and we're going to strive to do that. Can't promise that it won't happen, but our goal is to approach this with good, solid reasons why we disagree or
if we do,
to support the content creator.
Yes. It's analysis is essentially our approach, right? To offer thoughts and review,
right,
and to actually contribute to the conversation as opposed to just kind of taking shots.
Right. And if you are live here with us, please feel free to throw a question into us or a comment regarding something. And if we notice it quick enough, we definitely will mention it, and we'll take a look, as we move throughout the video to do that. So, yeah.
Well, can we also hedge a little bit? Yes, we are live streaming, so we're doing okay. I'm seeing a live stream, so I think we're live.
Yeah.
As we're going on, this is our first time streaming on YouTube. Now both Mox and I have streamed fairly extensively on Twitch before, so we're used to that. YouTube,
right,
brand new. This is the first time we've ever done it. So,
right.
Typically, I'm always asking for input. If anybody can't hear well enough, you need to tweak in the sound, maybe a little bit more from here or there. We can do those, right? So we can do that for you. That'll be great. Any kind of feedback on the sound, more than welcome.
Yes.
But pitch in on the conversation too. If there's something you like or don't like, or if you disagree with us, we'll interact. Really, this is us reviewing a video together, and we'll do this with all kinds of videos in the future, but also hanging out with you, and I think that's part of the fun.
Yep, and John in chat says we sound pretty good, so that's good to hear. Let us know, especially when the video starts, that you can hear that as well as us. Through the marvel of technology, we both have access to pause the video, so that's really cool. So as we work through, if one of us wants to pause, we will. If we both want to pause, we may end up with a pause-unpause. So we'll hopefully we can get through this pretty smoothly, though. We'll see how it goes. As we say, we're just a couple of numpties trying to create cringy content, and this definitely qualifies.
Right, absolutely. We are winning at what we are trying to do, which is
exactly
to cringe the internet for sure.
There we go.
Is there anything else, Mox, that we want to make sure?
I want to make a disclaimer.
We're belaboring happily here.
Ahead of this video, right. I am not a fan of this content creator. I think he is.
Would you
crass.
say, sir? Would you say, sir, that you are overly critical?
We'll get to that. I think he's just crass. It's not my style, but he has a huge audience, and it works for him. But I think that in this case, that he kicked a hornet's nest a little bit.
Well, and you're the queen bee, sir.
Exactly.
And you are.
I need a bee filter now, like with the antennae and stuff. But
I can make a thumbnail.
So I've seen some of his stuff, and I've watched it from a another content creator's point of view, that he's creating stuff, and what do we have to say, and some of the stuff he's come out with, as far as the, like, once you get past the crassness, it does have some validity.
Yeah, absolutely.
But in this video, I think we're going to shoot some holes in some of his arguments.
And that's fair. Yeah, so the content creator that we are talking about is Narc, of course. How could it be anybody else, right? So,
yeah.
And I've thought about this a lot, right? I mean, I watch a lot of Asmongold. I watch a lot of Narc. Folks that tend to be very popular within certain circles. They are certainly not kind of family-friendly radio the way you and I try to be. In fact, I think you and I have never had a conversation about being family-friendly.
No, it just happened organically.
Yeah, organically. And so it was an interesting thing. Is like I had to actually go in, download the video, beep out the sound, beep out the cuss words.
Yeah.
Just so that we have a family-friendly option. When I will review his thing, but it's just that. So we've done that. So there will be none of that. And I know in Narc's videos, one of the things that he likes to do is kind of like a skit in the front. I think we have it linked in our discussion, right, Marks? If you care to go watch the actual source video, that is in the description down below. So you can go do that and whatever. But I think we're going to skip over, just because Steven appears on a pair of, I would say tidy whities, but those are not white.
They're not white, yeah.
Right, Steven's face shows up on...
You know what? I did fail to do that, so let me, real quick, grab that.
Okay.
And I'll put it in the comments. Actually, I'll send it to you and see if you can pin it in the comments. If that is... I think that might be an option of some sort. Okay. And then I will add it to or if you want to add it to the description, again, our first time, I think we are a little
we'll add it afterwards if you care to go watch it. Find the VOD of this. Let's just say that, at least.
All right, it'll be there, so this was called...
So this, while he's finding that, just to kind of also further cue everyone up, there have been videos since this. This one is probably like a week or two old now. The history behind this, if anybody knows who Josh Strife Hayes is a streamer, an MMO streamer, and actually a pretty popular one. Very handsome guy. Like I think maybe Marks, we should replace you with him at some point. That way we can actually have everybody with hair on the show. So, just kidding. So Josh puts out a video that he kind of does the same thing Asmongold does, where he live streams and talks about certain aspects, and then if there's enough to kind of cobble together a video and export it to YouTube, does, right? So that's what Josh did. And the question he was asked was one that he was a little bit reluctant to get into, and that was, what do you think about Ashes of Creation?
Right.
And in the video, and there's a video that, I made sure to review it. It's not very long. It's maybe just 5 minutes. He says, well, I don't really want to talk about it, but okay, I'll humor you, and then goes into it and refers to taming as one of his arguments, right?
Right.
Between Intrepid and Visionary Realms, the only studio that's spoken about taming recently is Visionary Realms.
Right.
So clearly was conflating the two. Now, then, so Narc puts out this video that responds to it, that points out, hey, look, and what Narc's argument is, I'm seeing a lot of this happen, right? I'm seeing tweets where the two get conflated, whatever. And this, for me, is the cherry on top, and so I want to kind of point this out, which he does in the video. After that, people brought it to Josh's attention, and Josh has a response video as well, so we're recommended content as well. Go look at that. 2 minutes, right, where he says, yes, I conflated the two. In all honesty, I don't follow these very well, and that was why I was...
And here's why. And he explains why he's not, which is really important.
In games in development, he doesn't... Like, there's a chance they may never see the light of day. He doesn't want to subscribe to all of that hype if they don't.
Right.
That is completely fair. But because he hasn't been following them, he isn't quite up to speed as somebody like Narc would be, who hangs on every word, right? Or even us, right? Hangs on every word the way that Steven and Joppa and all of them do. And so that was why in the very beginning video he was kind of a little kind of pensive about wanting to get into it. So Ziplox is here. Welcome to you. Thorndeep is here as well. Good to see you. Thank you, everybody.
Yeah, we got a little bit of an audience. It's good to hear. So why don't we kick this thing off and get started?
Yes, because I love that we actually have a chance to belabor this. That's kind of fun. Usually we're trying to belabor it.
Yeah, we're like, there's no time limit on this one, so let's see how it goes. Here we go.
It won't be the rest of the evening. All right, here we go. Let's switch this. Okay, Mr. Mox, did you push play? Let's have a test.
I did not yet. I was waiting to see it update on there, but I'll
Just
hit play if you want.
Do it.
Okay.
Hey, what up, boys? So today is the day I finally tell everyone why I'm overly critical about Pantheon. Rise.
All right.
I knew it.
We got one sentence in, and I already have an issue with this. And the issue I have is that he admits that he's overly critical. So that means he knows that everything he's about to say in the next 15 minutes is over the top.
It's heavy-handed. Yeah, absolutely.
It's heavy-handed, and it's probably, much of it is not even going to be warranted. So he admits it right up front that
so
he's, like if he just simply says why I'm critical of it, okay. But of him admitting he's overly critical, he knows that what he's saying is there's issues with it.
Yeah. And I think that's completely legitimate as a finding, right? Like, yeah, I mean, and maybe that was a hard way to, that was maybe a poor way to start the video, was to say, well, I'm overly critical about what I'm getting in. A poor choice of word, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
Right? Because now you're ready for it, right? Like instead of engaging the arguments or whatever, you're kind of ready for him to be overly critical, right? So,
yeah,
fair enough. Moving right along.
Moving along.
Not only is the game a complete joke in terms of concept and execution, making it easy meme material for me, but the frustration goes deeper than this.
What basis does he have to call it a complete joke?
I suspect he's going to try to outline that as we proceed. Is that fair for me to say?
It is fair for you to say, but like, he's commenting as a fan of MMOs. Let's agree that he is an MMO fan. The game is in development, so I don't know. He hasn't played it. He hasn't really seen. I mean, from everything else I hear, he doesn't follow the development of the game to know what's actually going on. So how does he know it's a complete joke?
That is his opinion based on what he has seen, right?
I could question what has he seen based on some things that he'll say later,
and that's absolutely valid, right? But that I think it's a statement of what he is. He is
okay. So we're going to chalk that up to opinion, and everybody's entitled to their own.
Sure, go.
Okay, I'll let that go.
Wake up full of life and hope. My optimism for the future of MMORPGs is renewed every morning when I'm reminded of Ashes of Creation's progress over the last 10 months.
Okay. Why does the success of Ashes have anything to do with the success of Pantheon?
Because do you want to know what he's really doing between the two? He's comparing and contrasting them, sir.
But he's not.
That's why.
He's dumping on one and basically saying it's not worth anything and there's no room for it.
Yeah.
And there's only room for Ashes in his mind.
Sure. Yeah, so he is an Ashes of Creation content creator and creates videos about Ashes of Creation, right? Right. He is aware, kind of in the periphery, of what all is going on with Pantheon, right? But doesn't necessarily follow it as strongly, but sees enough conflation, as he's about to outline, between the two, apparently between tweets and whatever else like that, and so has decided to put this video out that never like parts the two, right?
Okay,
holds them all from each other. So
I still think that he's of the opinion that in order for Ashes to succeed, Pantheon can't exist.
I have to think about whether that's reasonable. Let me chew on that as we continue through this. I may come back to that. Right. As to whether that's
that direction. The innovation when it comes to character creator and weather effects, the MMORPG player base should be rejoicing. We're finally getting a game that seems to be doing everything right, apart from the cosmetics, the FOMO, the battle royale, and the stalling. Of course, but
so props to him for pointing out some flaws.
APOC. Right, absolutely.
At least he's realistic and understands that. I do think that the things he pointed out are all legitimate concerns from a point of view of somebody who's And I say recently, but in the last 2 years, started following Ashes of Creation more. So yeah.
Right. Okay. Did you pause that?
This is not the case for the general public. Oh, no, no, no. And allow me to explain why in today's video. But before we get into that, our patrons and I would love for you to grab yourself.
There's a lot of patrons.
It is.
Because my optimism.
He's got a big community.
Yeah. Mox, are you drinking Coca-Cola?
When I look
I got some Propel
to find relevant news to report on,
water.
and people everywhere.
It's not copium, apparently.
YouTube, Reddit, and Discord continue to confuse Pantheon. Rise of the
This is
Fallen
important. I'm actually going to take it
with
back
Ashes.
a second.
Okay.
All right.
YouTube, Reddit, and Discord continue to confuse Pantheon. Rise of the Fallen with Ashes of Creation.
So he stated right there that in the communities he's a part of, he's seeing in all the socials, right? Reddit, in his own Discord,
Right.
Twitter, where people are confusing the two, right? Now, I think from the other content of Narcs that I've seen, he is aware of Pantheon, doesn't like it, and kind of avoids it. And from here and there, I've seen him throw a smack at Pantheon, right? Like a joke, here and there, but it's usually a kind of a dour approach to it. So fair enough. But generally avoids it because he is, Ashes is his thing. But he's seeing there is enough, apparently from the community, there's conflation between the two. Now, I suspect that there are a lot more people than he is probably ready for loosely follow these things, right? Loosely follow Ashes, loosely follow, who knows, everything else that's been in development, right? Crowfall,
right.
New World, right? There's been a bunch of these other things. And people kind of dabble a little bit and loosely follow them, but because they're not launched yet, don't actively follow them. Now, here he is as a content creator who, if there's a live stream, he'll juice like 5 or 6 different videos out of it if he can, right? To keep that content coming, and really hangs on every word that that he hears from Intrepid. And so he's plugged in and they're not. Well, you're going to get that, where people who are loosely following something may forget where they've seen this and will come up with some misinformation here and there, just in discourse about it. Right. And it's been adding up for him, right? It's adding up.
Right.
And then when Josh did it, it was enough.
What I would have loved to seen here, though, is some screen grabs of tweets, of Discord, stuff in Discord, of something proving his point. He's verbally saying that all this conflation is going on, but has absolutely no backup for it other than Josh's video. Yeah. Where Josh admitted, I screwed up. Yeah. And, granted, it was after the fact, but there is zero proof for what he is putting forth here. And I want to see
receipts. He owes it to us. He's just saying he's seen it and he wanted to make a video because he's seen it.
Oh, if you make a claim like that, you got to show receipts. You got to at least back it up a little bit. Show 2 of them, like a tweet or something somewhere that proves your point. Sure. If you're going to throw it out there, or you could be
making it up. Yes, I agree.
Right.
I fully agree.
Yeah.
Okay. How are we doing, guys?
I got it.
Even the gorgeous hunk that is Josh Strife.
Oh, actually, hang on a second. We have a question. Why is Ashes and Pantheon always compared at all? I think the reason for that is because they both are just in development right now, and they are kind of the supposedly both going to be the next big MMO. So at some point it was like a race, but now it's pretty evident that Ashes will likely come out before Pantheon, simply just because they're at least in stages they're further along and have a bigger crew. So I think that's why that they are created or compared rather.
Yes, and again, let me reiterate my point about fans are loosely following both.
Right, you have your rabid fans, you have your Basgrims, you have your me and you who follow their stuff closely, and then you have the casual MMO fan who's probably still playing WoW or Final Fantasy and is vaguely aware of these.
Right. Here's another aspect of this. Let me demonstrate. Mox, how about them Cowboys?
Who?
Them Cowboys. You live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area.
The ones that lost last night or 2 nights ago.
Precisely. See, this is
my Eagles.
I'm demonstrating what also is going on, right? People pick a team, and my team wins and everybody else's team is Bantha Poodoo.
Right.
So there you go. That's
yeah.
part of it.
Valid point.
Doubt.
Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen, with Ashes of Creation. Even the gorgeous hunk that is Josh Strife Hayes has fallen to such a trap, and if I'm honest, I just can't take it anymore. I need to vent. I need to clear the air and sort this mess out because
this is Mark's,
I'm at my limit with this bullshit.
So today, it's time for you to turn around, drop your pants, and bend over because I'm about to hate your brains out whilst releasing my frustration about this constant mix-up. Now, with all that out of the way, let's begin.
Now, recall that he said to release his frustration about it, right? So there is this is an emotional thing.
Reasonable and an easy mistake to mix these two Kickstarter projects up. However, even at the Kickstarter stage, the major differences between Pantheon and Ashes of Creation are already misrepresented. Pantheon Rise of the Fallen actually failed to kickstart, barely even getting half the required funds to set it off. But this didn't stop them, no. Despite the lack of interest, they chose to privately fund the game instead, using $10,000 pledge packages that still exist today, paid access to their forums, and an NDA so thick it would put even your head to shame. And to top it,
so let me pause it there. He's going to continue to build that argument, right?
Right.
I think it's an interesting exercise in prejudgment, right? Like a decision to interpret what all has happened and what all is out there with an uncharitable disposition, we'll call it, right? Compared to someone else who sees, hey, yes, they tried this, it didn't work out in that Kickstarter, but they wouldn't take no for an answer. They went for their goal anyway. They knew it would be uphill, but they decided to persevere. Right, against the headwinds and to forge ahead, right? If they get to launch, it will be a hero story, right?
Right,
so
absolutely.
I think that there's definitely a choice in how you choose to interpret or to receive, right? It's a preconceived notion, right? An attitude,
right?
That you view it with. So.
It's that saying, it's not how often you get knocked down, it's how often you get back up, right?
Sure.
So Pantheon got knocked down with their Kickstarter. It happened. They got back up. They've suffered through a lot. They're a small development team. I think I mentioned what we recorded last night, which isn't out yet. They haven't. They lost their founder.
Right, they're visionary, right? Like a whole thing. All right, absolutely. And then Jobbers had to inherit that and step into the shoes of the visionary.
Exactly. So
that's complicated too.
So yeah, it's very complicated, and I don't think it matters that they failed their Kickstarter. He mentions paid access to their forums. That's a very small thing. It's like I forget how much. It's like $5 a month or something if you want access to the forums without backing it. If you do back the game, then you get that access for free. It's part of your what you get.
How else are they supposed to fund?
What's
project? How else are they supposed to fund the project, right?
Right, exactly. It's not like they're selling, crappy transmogs every month for huge amounts of money.
Transmogs.
I mean, it's kind of what
some of them are pretty.
What Ashes is doing every month. They're shilling another mount, another pet, another outfit.
Which I happen to think is very cool, so I want you to know that.
Right, but they definitely are shilling. They're definitely out there saying, pay us, give us more money so we can develop more and do better and all this stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a different way of doing it.
Right. Well, because the other option is for them to have given in to publishers, right, and to studios. Right. Like you could sell out to EA, and the next thing you know, they'll give you all the money you need to get this game across the finish line.
But you have to have a cash shop. You have to have paid convenience. You got to have all that stuff that they don't want.
Right. So pick what you're going to do. Right. It's crowdfunding is much messier. Right. It's there is it's much more complicated, and they come up with interesting strategies for funding the development of the game. Compared to the hush quiet, yes, we've received funding, we're going to be a studio of one of these larger companies, and then we don't hear another thing about it for 6 years beside the odd update, right?
Right.
But they don't owe the community anything. Whereas crowdfunding, they have to be putting content out there. They have to be showing progress. So,
all right. To comment with what Griffith said there, no, I'm not salty that he disagrees with me. Sakari disagrees with me about which game is going to be more successful and better, and I don't have the same feelings towards this. It's how Narc is doing it. It's not the fact that he's doing it. If he came across with some well-reasoned arguments, then I would have zero issues with it. It's the crassness, and it's the making arguments that are intellectually dishonest. That's what I don't disagree with him.
Or at least maybe in part of unfounded, but that's not the word I'm looking, like insufficiently substantiated.
Ignorant, is that the word? Like
unsubstantiated is the word I'm looking for, right?
There you go.
Like,
yeah.
You don't. There's been a claim made, but you're not seeing enough evidence to really, at least in at least where you've set the bar, it's not enough to.
And Griffith, if the issue is with Josh, then take it up with Josh. Don't attack Pantheon like this. And say, Josh, you're wrong, and this is these aren't the same game, and you're confusing taming with animal husbandry. There's a way to do it without evoking a visceral response, which is kind of where I come from. So yes, I am passionate about it, but I'm not salty because he disagrees with me. I'm salty because this is 18 minutes of garbage.
No. Hey, remember, we can't use ad hominem.
Okay.
Right, yeah. That's
no, I'm not. I didn't say he was garbage.
Yeah.
The arguments are garbage.
Okay. All right.
So, all right.
It all off, there's a caveat in their pledge page saying if this game falls through, you will not be getting your money back. Now,
I don't think anybody expects
this
to.
With Ashes of Creation, they actually smashed their Kickstarter goal 10
I don't expect
times
to in
over
Ashes
within
either.
the first day, setting
right, but you
records
would if it didn't
for the
come out
most
apparently.
funded
So that's nice.
MMORPG
But
to date. Their caveat to funding
they don't have a
actually states the
multi-millionaire
opposite. If this
backing
project fails,
or
you
making
will
it.
get your money back. But the Kickstarter was merely a gauge in interest, allowing Stephen and the team to confidently go.
Let me just pause right here as well. This is a style thing, nothing to do with partly could to do with the content, but not the arguments. He's playing music from the Valheim soundtrack, which I hear copiously in that game, and I cannot get it out of my head while I'm watching these videos. And
Funny.
later on, he's playing from The Witcher, or The Witcher 3. So I'm just, I know these tracks, and I'm just like, something doesn't feel right, and that's actually what it is. But anyway, that's
hey, in the background, is that like a big skull, like a big statue face?
What are you talking about? That bear there on the right?
Oh no, where you have different pauses. Hit play, and you'll see like when the boat's going across the water.
Okay.
It's weird because we don't get the same pause.
Full roster of original plans. The Kickstarter
That's funny.
wasn't a funding process because Stephen has said on multiple occasions.
The bottom line is I am committed to this project's success and completion. And that means that when it comes to funding for the additional years that perhaps were not planned for, that's coming out of mine and John's pocket.
Which, by the way, Pantheon is also funded to completion. All the additional funding they're securing is to help speed things up. But Joppa and Ben have both said the game is okay to get launched. Now, does that mean that we're going to get launched in 2025 or get launched in 2024 or 2026? Probably all matters about how much like more funding they get in there. Like they secured that big chunk of funding. Okay, so Ashes is funded to completion. So is Pantheon. Again, it's an uninformed statement.
Okay. You're right. I think I can agree with that, right? Or at least including this, maybe to support an argument that would say, yes, he would not know about Pantheon being ready to go. So yeah,
right.
I think that's fair. Okay.
Okay with that, because what we see in front of us is not only a team of extremely talented individuals, but also a community that is extremely passionate about the project and wanting to see it come to fruition.
The game is already funded to completion out of his own pocket, regardless of any sales made through the monthly packs. You see, the packs still exist with their current access, and the price still stands as it did back in 2018, because by reducing the price, you're spitting in the face of those original backers. hackers, and I respect Intrepid for doing that. Even though it is hurting their reputation in the current year, it is the correct choice to make. If you think the alpha keys should be lower in price to suit the current interest, then you, my friend, clearly are so used to Blizzard taking a giant on your head, you think it's acceptable to be treated like a toilet. Well, not me. I dropped out of the Blizzard shill train many years ago.
What does Blizzard have to do with any of this?
Culture.
Okay.
Right. So people have been playing MMOs since 2004, right? Or 2002.
Or playing WoW since 2004.
Right.
Yeah.
Or MMOs since, right? Like, I mean, like, WoW was still the core
EverQuest
game
was
that
99.
Most people have played. Okay, EverQuest was 99. Right, but you're going to have people that have been playing for such a long time. And I think there are people that will come out of ages, a decade plus of playing WoW, and will have expectations of the genre, right? I think that's where that alludes to. I did want to throw into this here that you've got to give him some props in calling what he thought was hurting Ashes of Creation's reputation in the market, right?
I agree. Whenever you're able to say, hey, this might be a mistake with your own, with your passionate project, that's a good thing.
Right.
Being treated with respect, Steven is down 30 million as of the release of Alpha 1 and has most certainly not made his money back yet. So if this is a scam, then, well, you're doing a pretty job stealing our money, Steven. Maybe you should take a leaf out of Pantheon's book and stop actually making progress. The only similarities between Ashes of Creation and Pantheon...
Right. Cheap shot is all that is. Stop making progress. No, they show monthly that they're making progress. Right. Now,
and if he's talking about like kind of times when they did have a couple periods when they went dark, but they went dark with for a purpose. They
HDRP,
were like,
right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. HDRP was one of them, and Project Fairfell was the other. They came out of that with significant improvements to their processes and things like that that have helped move the game along. Everything that they've done, they've said, and I have to trust them, is that they, the things that they've done to this point will help expedite development going forward.
Right, even vinyl, right? You look at vinyl, right? What can you show? You can't get on a live stream and go, look how wonderful this is. It's so much great eye candy. Because they were working on, yeah, exactly. Like, here's our data center, right? Like network infrastructure. But in this most recent test weekend, they themselves mentioned they had 500 people playing in one instance on one server, right?
In one zone, yeah.
In one zone. They can support that because of vinyl. That's progress. So you have to, you can't say, not all progress is assets in an engine displayable, right? Namely eye candy. Now, we've spoken pretty extensively about Intrepid's approach. I mean, I think our show, Disparate Worlds, we feel like Intrepid is a little heavier on the eye candy, and maybe should show some of that behind-the-scenes stuff. Because it's always great when we get to see, what they were doing with, being able to edit within the engine recently, right? That kind of stuff. Whereas Pantheon is shows us more, behind the scenes kind of stuff, but less eye candy. But maybe there's a whole talk show in does that cost? What are the costs of both of those? Right? What are the implications of that? What might
is there a middle ground that's better for both?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We'll get into the NDA crinkled in a couple minutes because that is definitely something that I want to bring up when it comes at a further point that he makes. So I want to chat about it then.
Okay. Playing on.
And Rise of the Fallen is that they both still remain in an alpha development stage today. Ashes of Creation just passed its 5-year mark, and Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen, is creeping up on its 9th year mark. A pretty big difference considering Pantheon hasn't had a single publicly viewable alpha phase yet.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Marks, and actually let me ask the audience as well, those of you who are watching us. 9 years, is that accurate?
Yes.
9 years, right?
MMOs historically have taken 8 to 12 years.
Okay, So, okay, so fair enough. We're right now in kind of the expectation phase where they should be close to beta, right? So
You would think, yeah.
I get it, but I mean, I get the reasons why they're not there yet. That's
Right,
not
because
necessarily to cover those.
this isn't Blizzard.
They're not there to cover those. But
right.
From the point of view of somebody who is on Twitter one day and sees, "Ooh, what's Pantheon? Pantheon MMO, what is this?" and looks at it and then does a brief look into the thing and finds out, oh, they've been out there for 9 years, and they haven't really been following the project. How close are they to? I mean, is beta coming soon? Oh wait, we're not even an alpha. Is it fair for a user to walk away and go, I half expect that project to die? 15 years, 20 years.
If all you take is a cursory look, then yes, I would think that. Yeah. That, like, if that's the level of like research that they do, then
that's the position from which Narc is speaking here. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
One who doesn't really follow it very well, but sees that it's taking a long time, right? And
right.
How much, if it's a journey of 1,000 miles and you are encumbered, and every time we look, you've taken 2 more steps, and it's next month you've taken another 2 steps, and you've got 1,000 miles in front of you. There is a heightened chance that you're going to give up at some point, and that's probably what he's expecting. I don't think it's unfair for him to have that perspective, except I think he doesn't know. He doesn't have enough faith, I think, in Visionary Realms' grit. You know what I'm saying? In their persistence to get this thing across the finish line, no matter what it takes, right? That's a choice to believe that or not. It's a matter of faith. So
yeah, I'm looking. So it's January 2014. It was announced. So that would have been 6 years. Would have been 2027. It's actually 8 years. It's coming up on 8 years.
Okay.
Right. January of 2023. Oh no, January 2023 will be 9 years.
Okay.
The start of its 9th year. So yeah,
accurate enough. Okay.
Yeah, it's close enough. The issue that I have here is that let's play this again. I want to pause a little after where we stopped.
Nor is one in sight anytime soon. Ashes of Creation shows considerable at a single publicly viewable alpha phase yet, nor is one in sight anytime soon.
Okay, so again, this comes from a position of being uninformed. Co is going to stream. I think it's going to be in November.
It's not an alpha, though. He's talking about an alpha.
It's a pre-alpha. Okay. But his thing is that they haven't done anything that's publicly viewable. They have had streamers in.
Yeah,
they have Co coming up, and this is a big announcement. That was made. This was going to be happening in this pre-alpha testing kind of series. That he would be streaming it. Right. So, sometime in November, we're going to be able to again have a publicly viewable stream of the pre-alpha. So
right.
again,
and I mean, recently enough, there was actually it's starting to get dated now. It's interesting when you go back and look how dated things get so fast.
With the 4 content creators,
with the 4, it was Nathan Napalm, the Pantheon Plus guys, right? Baz.
That was before Minus was on their team, so it's well over a year ago.
But you can't say that they haven't publicly viewable anything, right? You know what I'm saying? Like there is stuff out there. I agree they need to do it more often, and I agree they need to do it now. Like we need to see stuff now.
Yeah.
Right. And this gets back to that NDA, the comments. That Crinkle mentioned, right? Pantheon's biggest hang up is their NDA. I wonder how much that is hurting them. And maybe if there's a way to help themselves along by lifting parts of it.
I could tell you, having participated, it's not ready for mass viewing yet. It's just not there, and that's okay that it's not there yet. Having played through the recent pre-alpha, there just was things that would not have been.
You feel like
perceived.
Lifting the NDA would hurt more than it would help.
Yeah, exactly. Lifting the NDA at this point would hurt more than it helped. Yes, that's a good way to do it. To say it.
And that's legitimate because Intrepid does that, right? They don't show anything that they don't feel is show worthy.
Right. They didn't show anything until their Alpha 2, right?
No, not in Alpha 2. We're not.
What was the one you just did? Alpha?
Alpha 1, yeah.
Oh, Alpha 1. Okay. So they had an NDA up until that point. So Pantheon's not there yet. So, again, saying that Pantheon doesn't have a publicly viewable, alpha, it'd be like going back in time and saying, Ashes is bad because they don't have a publicly viewable alpha.
Right. Yeah, no, it's true. Except 9 years into development.
And they are lifting the curtain a little bit by allowing Co to stream it.
Yeah.
So,
Ashes of Creation shows considerable progress every single month, even before the Unreal 5 announcement, and had an extremely successful, publicly viewable Alpha 1 test.
Okay. Couple things to unpack there.
That's a great pause, but...
Where is it? I have to see, because, again, it's different. So, number one. This is opinion.
Yes.
That all depends on how you look at their content. Do you consider seeing new character art and environments for a third of the last 10 months, for 4 out of 10 months? Do you consider that to be considerable progress on each of those months?
Well, he is going to break it down right now as to what he views as that content, right? As the progress.
Okay. Do you think, honestly, that Alpha 1 was hugely successful from a player standpoint?
Yes, having tested it, and I can speak about it because I was in it, and they lifted the NDA, so I will.
So having no PvP in a PvP game was
the PvP was there.
Makes it...
they just turned it off because people were griefing rather than testing certain, and that's what you'd expect.
Right. So again, you have a PvP based game where the main thing is PvP, and you couldn't do that.
Well,
how are the quests?
I think you're being a little bit. They turned it off because they wanted to focus test. Right, it's an Alpha 1. Let's keep in mind they're testing certain systems. PvP was available as an option in that it's been put in there. They just had to turn it off in order to stop people from spending all their time PvPing, which was the natural inclination, right, to get them to test the actual content. Right. So let's
if you want to give them a bailout, that's fine. How are the quests?
Quests were light. Let me say that environmentally it was amazing. The environments, the oceans, the
I don't think anybody disagrees with that.
Right, that was all beautiful. There were bosses, there were layers, there were dungeons, open world dungeons you could go down into. The environments by far is the most amazing aspect of it. There was some crafting and some gathering, very rudimentary systems there, right? I would say for an alpha, I would say it was pretty successful. Now,
how are those nodes?
Content-wise,
how are those nodes?
The nodes were buggy.
Aren't the nodes a central system?
Yeah, they are. Recall we're in Alpha 1.
So right, but we're in Alpha 1. So you're steps ahead of where Pantheon is, and a major system is not functioning.
Yes, I mean that's fair enough, But I'm not gonna say the alpha was a blowout because that didn't work. I mean, like they ran into a glitch, and obviously you expose it to player testing, you learn some things from it, you turn around and you fix those, and then in Alpha 2 or the next play test that you have, you see if it's now working, right?
Okay,
so,
I just have an issue with him saying it was hugely successful from a player standpoint. Now, from a developer standpoint, they may have ticked all their boxes. Like we wanted to look at a little bit of crafting, we wanted to look at how does a stress test work, things like that. They may have ticked their boxes there, but from an end user point of view, you stopped playing.
I did, yes, because I played all the questing I could find, which was the easiest way to level, and after that it was just kill grinding. And I didn't want to just kill grind in order to reach level 15 or 16, which is kind of the highest you could go.
Mm-hmm.
And there not to be anything to do. There was no quote unquote end game, right? I mean, like you could get there and then have the level up enough to be able to participate in the castle sieges, which they were testing at determined times. I had tested those formally in a different play test session.
Right, in a focus test.
In a focus test, so I knew what that was. I knew how they played. I knew how that felt. It was actually quite fun.
So you weren't in a rush to get to that.
But that, yeah, I mean, like
It
once
says something that you chose to not go back and you chose to not. Let me try a different character. Let me see how a caster feels as opposed to a melee. I think it just says something about the game
2 or 3
that people chose to leave it rather than try something else.
Okay, fair enough. It's rough. It's an outcome.
Incredible MMORPG feats that we thought were quite literally impossible in this modern age of MMORPGs. But my major concern here is how easily and how common it is for people to mix up Ashes of Creation and Pantheon. These are not the same game,
the modeling
but to
for
the
the two.
public
I'm aware
eye,
that,
as demonstrated by Josh,
not every one of our people that follow us for our Ashes and our Pantheon content, right? Sometimes they do, and they are fully aware, and they follow both studios and things. Sometimes they don't. In this case, what we're seeing is the Ashes of Creation content, or character creator, the character modeling on the left. Like this is the human. I forget which race it is.
Right.
Kalar.
Valar or whatever.
Yeah. And on the right is the newly released modeling. That they have just redone the human female, the human.
Right. They hired a 3D
male
artist and animator and all that to rework the rigging and all that stuff.
So he's juxtaposing the two here to show,
Right.
Is this fair? One's in Unreal 5, right? One is in Unity. I don't know.
Oh, you showed me that video of that robot or whatever in that was done in Unity, and that was amazing modeling.
Yeah. Unity.
So it's possible.
Be impressive. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So we'll see how it goes.
they are all of the dodgy practices, the scam-level progress, and the egregious monetization attempts over the years.
Oh, wait, I mean,
The price of the keys and them trying to sell NFTs has bled into Ashes of Creation's reputation.
where?
NFTs?
Okay, yes, they did do NFTs. Do I think that that's a good idea? No. I think NFTs are about the stupidest thing that you could choose to spend your money on.
As a consumer, as somebody who's so, and if honestly, I don't know that it's a stupid thing for the studio to do. It's a stupid.
Right.
Personally, it's a stupid thing to buy an NFT.
Exactly.
But if you are willing to do it, and maybe you're willing to do it to fund the studio, and go, hey, I can own a poster of this, and it's my art, and they credit me whenever la la la, and you're willing to opt in. You understand what you're getting yourself into, and you're funding the studio, and
that somebody can screenshot it and have that too.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. Yeah, you're not denying anyone else from it, but I don't know if you want to give the studio money to help along their development, and NFTs are the way you do it. Okay, I don't see a problem.
That's I think it's a foolish consumer choice, but like you said, from a company choice, if they could make a couple $100,000 or a couple $1 million from doing that, more power to them. They did it shortly. I think they abandoned it as a viable way going forward and probably chose to focus their resources elsewhere.
But honestly, let me ask you this: how different is an NFT compared to owning a skin in a game? Right?
Yeah.
You don't own anything. You know what I'm saying? You
don't even own the videos you buy on Amazon.
You don't own
now.
the pixels. You know what I'm saying? So truly, I don't know. I don't know if there's too much of a difference.
And the other thing he brings up here about reducing the cost, they one time reduced the cost or introduced a new package that had a reduced cost of about 25%, but it also didn't have all the features that the step above it did have. So you didn't get VIP level access. You got alpha access for the Black Scion.
Yeah, sign of the Black Rose. Somebody correct us in chat.
And they did that because they were celebrating this huge investment that they got. So they decided to reward potential new people to come in and say, hey, this isn't everything, but here's a access at a slightly lower amount, but you get slightly less stuff. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Right. Yeah. You pushing the play button?
Yep.
I'm trying not to.
Every single day across all social media platforms, and it infuriates me. You think I on Pantheon and Visionary Realms because of their lack of talent and motivation to actually make a game? No. I do it because Ashes of Creation's reputation suffers because of their lack of talent and progress.
Where does he get off saying they have lack of talent? Like, I don't.
Okay, no,
like,
no,
that's
no,
just,
no.
That's
Hang
an
on.
ad hominem attack.
I don't think it is. I don't think it is. Okay, so here, so lack of talent. Let's recast that. They haven't yet hired the resources. They know they have a lack of talent. They need the talent. That's why they're hiring the talent.
They have a lack of bodies. Saying they have a lack of talent is saying that they can't do their jobs.
Yeah, so talent is a bad word for it. But what I'm saying is you hire the talent. You don't have nobody has a talent until you hire the talent. Right. They know that. They don't have environmental artists, right? And art and 3D artists. They know they need that, and that's the phase that they're about to enter into now that they're through with HDRP. Exactly, right? And now that they're through with vinyl, getting some of that infrastructure underneath, now turning to that as the next step, right? So although it's I get that he's making a slap, right? You don't have any talent. Well, I don't think that's necessarily untrue, right? They know they need the talent to make the eye candy that he wants to see.
And again, I come back to this. Does the progress of Pantheon intrinsically damage Ashes of Creation?
No, I don't think so. He thinks so, but I agree. I agree that anybody who's following these properly enough should easily be able to know that they're different. I mean, Crinkle, right? You said in chat here, nobody who has confused the two. I don't either, honestly. Yeah. He apparently has. I think it goes back to Mox, what you were saying. Like, I'd love to see a screenshot or two, right? To
Other than the Josh video.
Right. Okay.
And Steven has come out and said that he wants Pantheon to succeed, that he's friends with and wants the team over there to do well. So, what Narc is doing here doesn't do Pantheon any favors.
No, it doesn't. I agree, because he's got an audience.
But I digress.
Yeah.
My goal
it doesn't do Ashes any favors.
As much as I want it to, isn't to slander another so-called passion project. It is to clear up the misconceptions that one of our leading content creators within the MMORPG space seems to have with this highly anticipated MMO. So let's pull out the copium and convince ourselves that Ashes of Creation isn't going to follow in Pantheon's footsteps. Josh has shown his disdain in the past for Ashes of Creation, and I completely stand by his original critiques. Viewing this project from an outside perspective is exactly how I go about creating videos and likely contributes to the amount of success.
Do I even have to say it?
Yes.
Let's hear that again. Listen closely.
And by his original critiques. Viewing this project from an outside perspective is
from an outside perspective, yeah.
Is he viewing it from an outside perspective, or is he viewing it as an Ashes of Creation fanboy?
Well, define inside perspective. Aren't you and I outsiders? Although we follow this stuff pretty closely, we're not studio members, right? So
we're not. Okay, so yes, by definition, we are not employees, so therefore we are outsiders. But he's not. He's viewing it from a standpoint of Ashes good, Pantheon bad.
Yeah, he's definitely made his mind up before he becomes this.
Right. So he's not viewing it. When they say view as an outsider, to me that says somebody who's not involved, who doesn't have a position on this. I want to give an unopinionated point of view, and that's not what he's not doing what an outsider perspective is.
I don't know that it's entirely unsubstantiated. Let's watch the video a little bit more. I think he does have a valid point here.
It's exactly how I go about creating videos and likely contributes to the amount of success my format has had. Albeit that comes at the cost of me being labeled as a dumb within the neckbeards of this community.
Now, I'm going to comment on this, right? Like, look at him right now. It's his shtick. I get it, right? And it's fun, right? There are people that follow him because he's got the hoodie on. He shaves himself bald, and it's a big joke about baldy, right? He's got pizzas and Coke can or Pepsi cans in the back, right? And he talks about the neckbeards, right? Like, it's his thing. That's his audience, and those are the ones that he's having fun entertaining in his video. So I want to say, you know, let's also consider that there is a layer to which he is catering to his market, which is that kind of person that loves to just kind of just crap on everything and have fun. You know what I'm saying? So
I agree. He's not a dumb person.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
He's doing what he's catering to his audience, and there ultimately is nothing wrong with that, to a degree. You know, when you make arguments that are attacking someone else and you don't have the receipts to back it up, that's where the issues lie.
Right. Okay.
Sadly, takes great joy in mocking them over it. What a toxic hole.
I deliberately choose to word things in ways that normies would understand the concept, not in the ways that stroke the obsessive copium fiends festering in the pits of Reddit and Discord. Reality check.
I think you can relate to your audience without resulting to being a troll.
Well, unless his audience is trolls.
Well, but he's saying he's choosing his words and so that they understand
quote unquote normies, as he calls them, right?
Yeah.
He's definitely catering to, you know, push play for a second. Let's just get this next little segment in.
Doesn't even exist, so stop consuming social media about it daily, and that includes all of you morons in my Discord as well.
He's saying stop consuming social media about these games that don't exist even
on a daily basis.
Yes. Why would you point at your community and say you guys need to stop consuming content about it daily when he's the one making the content?
Almost daily.
Yes. And maybe that irony is the joke. And you know, and I'm not getting it, and I deserve to be, you know, spanked on the hand because I didn't get it. But anyway, it is what it is. Okay, moving on.
From an outside perspective, the game's progress and concepts do seem extremely daunting. Open world PvP, a player-driven world, ocean, dungeons, world bosses, artisan seals, but the truth is, it's only really the node system focusing on that player-driven aspect that makes this MMO different. Even then, I think we, as consumers, are way overshooting the impact this player-driven aspect will actually be. We are, unironically, overhyping this particular part of the game because of the lack of information about it, and admittedly, it will probably end up disappointing a lot of us. But aside from this node system, the open world PvP concept has been used across multiple games. The planned crafting and gathering systems were highly successful in Star Wars Galaxies and EVE. The oceans and caravan systems, leaning on a risk versus reward motivation, are utilized successfully across a few, and in fact, Ashes of Creation is quite literally just a nice blend of Lineage 2, aka Black Desert Online, and Arcage.
Okay. It's interesting to me. I don't think he's as much of an Ashes of Creation shill as we may be conceptualizing him as. Can I say that? Because he's just spent a minute talking about that. Really, Ashes of Creation is like every other MMO except for the node system. Right, and he, you know, and is coming out of speaking about where Josh has been critical about Ashes of Creation and kind of quote unquote agrees with him in some of it, right?
Right.
So I'm gonna make sure that we're building that counter as well, right? That he's definitely more charitable toward Ashes of Creation. I mean, hands down, but isn't like a lock. It's not that Ashes of Creation can do no wrong in his opinion, which I think is good to make sure we focus on. Yes, and if you're saying it's not a counter, let me know why. I'd love to know what you're thinking there. Thanks. Okay,
best
continue.
Systems out of these four aforementioned games and blending them all into one. It is not impossible or daunting at all, and the progress they've made this year has been a pretty clear indicator the game is quickly becoming a reality. On that note, let's discuss the clip in question. There's three major points to Josh's clip that I want to address: the scope creep, the so-called taming discussion, and the common sense logic of how an MMORPG should be made. Each of these these points he made does not apply to Ashes of Creation in any capacity whatsoever. This is what compelled me to make the connection to Pantheon Rise of the Fallen. First of all, he mentions scope creep and feature creep. At no point during the development process of this highly anticipated MMO have they ever increased the scope or features planned. What they decided during Kickstarter was set in stone the moment that ended, and not once have they attempted to expand this. There was a debate last month about the map size increase being classed as scope or feature creep, but I think after analyzing and much consumption of copium, we came to the consensus that it is not scope or feature creep to convert the original concept of the game into a practical, usable world that supports the systems.
Okay. I'm going to say this again.
They even reduce...
Pause. Yeah, right there. I'm going to say this again because this is important. About software development. Okay? It is impossible to say this is what we're going to build and deliver exactly on that every single time. That's not real life.
Right.
Real life has to be flexible and has to respond to people quitting, right? Hiring new resources. It's a world that changes, right? Suddenly you don't have funding for things. Suddenly you get an influx of funding, right? You think of something in addition that turns out to be kind of critical to the thing, even though it came around after the initial design, right?
Right.
Sometimes you subject it to testing, and testers come back and they go, "This doesn't work. Here's our feedback," and you respond to that testing and you make a change in the game plan. Feature creep is a part of a software development. Now, I'm not saying feature creep will not delay you, because it will, right? And that it isn't developmentally expensive. It does take resources to do, but it is the nature of things, and nobody gets away with it. It's going to happen in Pantheon, and it's going to happen in Ashes. Feature creep is a reality, right?
I agree.
You cannot escape it. So to the people that are worried about feature creep, put it to bed.
Right.
And that's why these game studios can't project down the road and say, here's our delivery date for Alpha 2. Here's our delivery date for Go Live. Because if it was a matter of doing the plan, they knew they had all the resources to do the plan, and knew that they would be able to meet those milestones. If feature creep wasn't a part of the reality, they would give us a date.
Right.
I think it would happen in 25, right? In summer of.
Can you imagine if people had dates set and then COVID happens?
Exactly. You've got to be flexible. You've got to respond to. So I'd love to see. It'll never happen, but I would love to see feature creep as a worry put to bed. Right? Like, it's okay.
Right.
Feature creep is a good thing. It's not a bad thing.
Good project
unless
planning
it's
also.
Egregious.
You'll also admit that good project planners will build in some slack, and I don't know what the project planning term is for that, but room for if something doesn't happen, then we can bump this, and it's not bumping it back, say, a month. Maybe it'll bump it back 2 weeks because they had a little space for that.
Yes. Now I will say, being in software development, I've seen no practice of feature creep. Egregious feature creep where that would make me concerned from either studio. Both of them know kind of what they're trying to achieve and are working toward achieving it.
Yeah.
There's nothing about what they've done that's worried me. So anyway, go on.
Scope by removing 15 of their original 103 planned nodes. So technically it's unscope creep. Anyway, the reason Josh mentioned scope and feature creep in the first place was to push the point of the recent taming discussion? What? Well, this is where it dawned on me. You see, to swindle the super copium enjoyers within the Pantheon player base, they like to do what is called parting of the veil, or what I like to call parting of the cheeks as they their backers with no remorse, because this is just 1 hour of them answering questions and promising more and more things that are never actually going to exist.
All right, so pause right there. I've been talking so much. Let me throw you the ball. Can you please explain to everybody, because we had the quick discussion on Twitter with Joppa, what is parting of the veil?
Parting of the veil is their way of letting the community know, like, kind of the things that they are working towards. It's not things that are showable right now. It's This is something that has been in the plans, and this is kind of where it's at right now.
They're busting over the design book, right? I say when we designed these features,
right,
in the beginning of the project, here's what we have in mind for something that's coming.
Right.
Way down the
exactly.
road, right?
Like way back, Brad McQuaid talked about having some sort of taming system. He wanted mounts to be something that was a little bit more interesting than just pulling a horse out of your horse pocket.
Right.
And for Narc to say that it's a swindling and scamming, and he's choosing all these words deliberately. But this is where I think he is being a little bit intellectually dishonest. He's choosing words. He's making statements saying that they're not going to deliver. When there's plenty of times, like for example, Steven talked all about the node system and about when he reduced the nodes, about these vassals, and then he said something about when a node goes away that there's going to be some sort of changes, but he didn't actually show anything. So why is it okay for Ashes to talk about something, but not for Pantheon to discuss something?
That's absolutely fair, right? Or to talk about a design principle or what they're doing without actually showing evidence of it, right?
Right.
In game, right? Yeah. So yeah, that's parting of the veil, right? And the problem is when you see a live stream where all they do is talk. And we're going to get into this more. The episode that we currently editing that will come out within a couple of days, right? We touch on this a little bit as well, but there's been a little bit of PR recently where the question floating around in some of especially the casual people that are just looking on Pantheon, their mind is the question they're asking is this vaporware? Is this another, what is it, Elysium? Is that the name
Elysium,
of it?
yeah.
Whatever it was called, right? Where it turned out not to be a thing, right? Is this another one of those, right? Now, it does not help Pantheon to have a parting of the veil where all they do is talk about design ideas without actually showing stuff, unless unless that's what they're doing there. But too much of that and not enough eye candy,
right,
is going to hurt that. It's going to answer those people's questions. Oh, this is vaporware, right?
Right.
It's ideas, but it's nothing translating into reality in an engine, right? What we want to see.
Right.
So
and to that point, we discussed this, as you mentioned in the video that we're getting ready to release. Several months ago, they showed us, they being Joppa and the guys over at Pantheon, showed us a concept art for the well pond, and they just recently showed us the 3D rendering of that, like at its initial stages. Here it is. You can actually see it. So so we got concept art, and then followed by in a reasonable amount of time, here's an actual 3D rendering of it. I think that's perfectly reasonable.
Yes, and it's progress. And by the way, S and I fully agree. Yeah, we mentioned a moment ago that that Narc is catering to an audience, right? It's drama for the views. Fully right, absolutely.
Yep.
I don't think we
Chronicles of Valeria vibes. Am I right, guys? Pantheon has shown way more progress than that game after 8 years, for sure. This baseless promise of cool conceptual features is the definition of scope creep, and the subject matter of this month was, of course,
he doesn't understand scope creep.
The very thing Josh brought up. Pantheon had no footage to back up these wild claims, of course, just the same reused Unity assets that they think is acceptable to present the progress of their
Okay, let's talk about Unity assets real quick, so that needs to be clarified, right? If you understand what it is, and you do, right? But you buy Unity, or you subscribe to Unity, or whatever the engine is, now we've got a copy of it. And you do your art, and typically there's been changes on the Asher side, in both, where it's how do we do this faster, right? But you use 3D modeling tools and texturing tools, and then you import those into the engine, and you place them and you tile them or whatever, and that becomes the world that you're running around in, right? That's what it is. But these engines need to be something that you can get into and run around in to begin with. View, right? And so I know Unity in this case offers. And there's like a whole Unity store where you can just go buy what artists have put together, these things that you can buy that, import it into Unity, and run around as a deer, right, or something, right, or have it there acting because it's been pre-coded stuff. So,
right.
it's like outsourcing, right? Like, and this happens in software development. It's something we're thinking about, right? Is that sometimes you'll outsource and bring in a team to develop some aspect of your software, and once they deliver on that contract, they leave. That happens in software all the time. I haven't, we're still expecting games to start a studio and you develop everything in-house and support it all in-house. I think that's an old model, and I honestly am amazed that it still continues to be.
And that's a fine model if you have a big team and the money to support it.
Right. But outsourcing is the way that the business world works. I'm amazed that there isn't more of it going on, and maybe there is, and I just don't know about it, right? But in the meanwhile, yes, we're seeing Unity assets. That's how you have to show stuff this early, right? Or at this stage in the development cycle.
And now that Pantheon has some artists, we should see more stuff.
Absolutely.
And I can tell you, we saw stuff in that was neat in the pre-alpha. So there's stuff to look forward to when Co streams next month. It's going to definitely be an eye opener, I think.
Right.
Here in 2022, Stephen hasn't spoken
Good night,
about
Essen.
taming or anything like that since ever, because Intrepid do not talk about things until they are ready to show. So the only explanation for this comment is that Josh quite literally thinks Pantheon and all its failings are also ashes of creations. Finally, Josh also spoke about how a game should be designed. Develop the basic functionalities, release a playable product, and then add stuff on top of it. Common sense? The funny thing is, the exact quote that Josh said, I think I've heard it word for word coming out of Stephen's mouth as well. Stephen knows what it takes to make an MMORPG, and he's been doing everything correctly. That's why Ashes of Creation has so much faith behind it. It is not just baseless cope. This is the only upcoming MMORPG that genuinely looks like it will succeed for once. On that note, Stephen actually reached out to Josh in this clip and offered an interview in the comments. Josh, if you're watching this or any of his viewers able to clip, please take up this offer and interview Stephen, because I think you are misunderstanding a lot of what Ashes of Creation is all about. You preach you want the genre to be better, and Stephen is trying to bring that back to us, back to a time before MMOs were complete corporate dog. You will not only be doing a huge service to the MMORPG player base, but I think it will also make you consider sucking in that sweet, sweet Ashes of Creation copium.
Let me pause right here. Mox, what is your thoughts as to what David Sumter has said in chat?
Yeah, I was taking 9 to 12. I thought that's what the number was. It could be 7 to 9, but again, that's 7 to 9 for, depending on studio. Like, what's the studio size? Like, it's difficult to pin that down if you're not comparing apples to apples. So while Ashes and Pantheon are both MMOs, the companies are apples and oranges.
Right. I will say this. I think it's completely reasonable to have a growing concern the longer it takes a game to release.
Agreed.
I think it's reasonable, right? And I think that at 9 years in, it's growing for some people. I think that's fair. I think that behooves, sorry about my wording, but that obligates, let's use that word, Visionary Realms to respond to that messaging. Right? There's a PR campaign going on, and when they begin to start to see more, hey, it's getting along, where are we? That's a challenge, and they have to rise to it, right? How do you respond to that? Okay.
Yeah. Agreed.
In particular, Ashes of Creation has been receiving a lot of hate, far more than the usual 3 threads a day, but that's expected.
By the way, he's playing
they just
the
took
Witcher
a
3
giant dump
soundtrack now.
on all the Zoomers' desperate need to sate their action combat ADHD. But it's important to remember, Ashes of Creation isn't trying to be the next World of Warcraft. It isn't trying to be the next big thing. Stephen has said this multiple times, and even the player base, who desperately consume it every single day, already know the open world PvP nature of this MMO will not allow it to maintain an audience the size of World of Warcraft. This highly anticipated MMO's ambitions are simple. Just be a good MMO that respects its players without pay-to-win and anti-social convenience systems.
I've got to say this again. Every single time I see the detail in the environments of Ashes of Creation, I'm blown away all over again. I mean, it is looking incredible. I've got to say this, right? Like just the way that you got bugs rising from the grass. There's mist in certain sections. It's the particle effects that are catching me right now. And the sun shining through the trees. Engines in general have gotten absolutely amazing. I don't doubt that Unreal 5 is going to be just incredible.
I would love to see this run on how it runs on a potato, though.
Right. I mean, yes, it's true. Some people will be playing on potatoes, so we'll see. All right, moving right along.
Believe it or not, kids, that's what MMOs used to be, an escapism for people like me who struggle to fit in the real world. The heavy emphasis on social media nowadays and the kids growing up on nerdy stuff being the norm does mean the escapism that used to exist is no longer a thing. Sadly, it's all just money bags to our corporate overlords now.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Intrepid have made a bunch of mistakes during their development process. APOC was an embarrassing move in my opinion, the cosmetics are a heavily debated topic, and the few periods of time where the progress was slow probably took a toll on this game's reputation.
As
However,
it should.
The last 10
as
months
it will with
have
anybody.
been absolutely phenomenal for the game. The move over to UE5 feels like something Intrepid have been waiting for to really pop off, and they've been pulling no punches to prove to us they are capitalizing on the incredible strides in technology Unreal Engine 5 offers. So to end today's clickbait...
I will say this, he is heavily impressed, clearly, with recent months, the character creator, the move to UE5, right? The what is it? The weather systems, seasons, the recent releases of information that they've showed us. He's very impressed with. He sees that as major gains in progress.
Right. And we made content, we took a break, and I'd say that when during that break they did come out with a lot of stuff, like a lot more than they were previously. Like before when we took our break, we were like, man, Ashes every month just seems like it's art and environment. So the last 10 months, the fact that we've had 6 significant months of systems or reveals is good, and and I agree with that. And David, I don't know if you were here earlier, but yes, I'm all in for Pantheon. I have no problem with criticisms of Pantheon. It's the style, it's the uninformed opinions that I disagree for. I'm not making excuses for them. I'm simply showing the other side of the coin that Narc has been showing.
Right.
I actually don't have a question for you guys, so instead I will leave you with a closing statement. I hate Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen. But as usual,
it is what it is.
I am just one nerd desperate for a good MMO.
That isn't Pantheon, of course.
And my opinion means nothing without your
He's prejudged,
baseless
and that's
hope for Pantheon
fine.
down in the comments below.
That's
And
his
hey,
right, like
yeah,
and he's right to say it too if he wants to. I mean, this is what it is.
Yeah. And everything that he says is colored by that. He starts off with, I'm overly critical. He ends with, I hate Pantheon. So obviously we're not going to be getting an objective opinion from him. And you could argue that my opinions aren't objective, but I do think that everything that I said at least had some backups for. I erred in the years of development for an MMO. Hey, I'm not perfect. But in general, I think that both games will be able to exist. I think somebody mentioned earlier that the best thing to happen will be for Ashes to come out, kind of get through the initial fever of Pantheon, and then for the fever for Ashes to kind of subside, and then for Pantheon to come out afterwards.
Right. I agree. Some distance between these games would be good, right? With them both in development, there's comparison between the two because they're both in development. When one is live, people can get on with their lives, right? And speak about the one that's out there in development. I think it'll change the dynamic pretty significantly.
In fact, that was a big discussion when 2 years ago we got together. We're just starting this project. We said the worst thing that could possibly happen is for these two games to come out within a couple months of each other.
Right, because we'll play one extensively, and then we'll turn around and play the other extensively.
Right.
If there's some layering, but if they come out together, we'll be torn in 2 different directions, and then what happens, right? So
exactly.
We're shaping up that way. That'll be That'll be okay.
Wow, almost 90 minutes. I think we should probably think about wrapping this up. But any last comments or questions from our audience?
Yeah, all he's going to do is wrap up now and call it. So I'm going to switch back to the other scene, and then we can continue to yak for a few minutes before we call it a stream. So. Hopefully
I enjoyed that. It's probably a little longer. We probably hit a little bit too much on points, but I definitely enjoyed being able to go over this. So we'll definitely have to find another interesting video to do this again soon.
Yeah, and we'll do this. Again, just to reiterate, a recent really announcement that we made was we want to diversify our content a little bit. One of them is this. It's the just a chance to sit down together and actually live stream our way through a recent release video. There's been a lot of good ones by the Lazy Peon that we've had to talk about on Twitter, right? But I'd love to be able to just watch it together, comment on it, pause on it, do that, and include your comments, and just enjoy each other's company as we do that. So that's the idea. That's the only one of our content offerings. I call them products, right? Like our lines of stuff that we do.
Yep.
That will be live, and so it's fun to hang out with you all and to hear your thoughts on things. Definitely very much appreciate those of you that have been in chat tonight, sharing opinions and thoughts and things like that. We try very hard here at Disparate Worlds to be fair and analytical, right? Like we think things through and reason with them and try to struggle with them. We are quite often completely wrong about stuff. We're misinformed, and we appreciate people that speak up in chat, because that's usually what keeps us straight. They'd say, hey, I don't know if you're aware of this, but go check the wiki on this, or it's been said before that, whatever. And that helps us build and kind of stay on the straight and narrow, so to speak. So we definitely appreciate those of you who join us in chat tonight.
Exactly.
Figure this out.
All right, check us out on our socials at facebook.com/disparateworlds, on Twitter at disparateworlds. Our website is disparateworlds.org, and on Patreon we are patreon.com/disparateworlds. In addition, on our website and in the description is a link to our Discord. Please join us there.
Yes. Now,
I give you a link if you need it.
I'm supposed to say closing line, aren't I?
I gave you a link in our host chat if you want to read your sign off. I did.
All right. So there should be a like and subscribe thing that came up, but I didn't bother to get it ready. So like and subscribe, very much appreciate that. What else do I say at the end of these videos? We appreciate you
dropping comments, which we appreciate the chat.
Yeah.
You didn't give a dad joke tonight, so you're behind that. So. Yeah, and then you say something about taking care of themselves and remember to be immovable in their principles and irresistible in their passions.
I'm so glad I remembered that. You guys are awesome. Guys. Thank you so much. We appreciate you joining us. Tune in. We're going to have another video out in the next couple days for sure. Yep. It's going to be a cover of the recent Pantheon Wild's End update, right? The Well Pond and the Manor, Saval Manor. Yeah. And a little bit of a testing update, right? What we can say that's still not limited by NDA. So.
Exactly.
Stay tuned. We'll have more content coming. Thank you all for joining us. Have a great night.